Hey y'all, my name is Gray Madden with Self-Reliance Publishing, and today we're going to continue our series about how to raise worms. This video is going to be about introducing your new worms to their home, their new worm bin, and what you need to know. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, what I have here is the worm bin and the bedding that we've made in previous videos. About a pound of worms that I've harvested from other worm bins, and some bedding material, castings and whatnot that I pulled out of some other bins. More than likely, if you are ordering worms, they're going to be shipped in a bag, a breathable bag, with an equal amount or equal weight of damp peat moss. And the peat moss by itself is sterile. It doesn't have much in the way of microbes in it. So if you have another worm bin or have access to another worm bin, it would be really a good idea to grab some of the bedding out of that to introduce into your new bin. It will help activate the bin and make your worms happier. Not sure about the science behind it, but I've read it, heard it from multiple places, and it seems to hold true in my personal experience. So what we're going to do is simply gently dump the worms into their new home. This is not the best container for it because the neck's kind of constricted a little bit. Make sure we don't have any stragglers in there. Alright, so we've got the worms dumped in there. I'm going to take the castings and bedding from one of my other beds, sprinkle that around in there to make them feel at home. And that's it. Let the bin sit for a few minutes, and the worms will dive down into their new bedding to get away from the light. It's important when you introduce worms to a new bin that you keep the top off and you don't put any kind of cover on it. Worms don't like the light, and so if you have a light over the bin, it will keep the worms from crawling out of it. There's a tendency for the worms to be kind of restless and to want to crawl out and leave the bin when they're introduced to a new home, especially if they've been shipped. They've been kind of jostled around and gotten really dehydrated. They're going to be super stressed, and they're likely to ball up in a corner somewhere for a few days to a week and just have the tendency to crawl. So if you keep a light on over the bin, preferably 24/7, you're going to reduce the number of worms that crawl out of your bin. Another thing to keep in mind is it's best not to feed your worms for the first few days to a week after you put them in a new bin. They're going to be under a lot of stress, and you need to give them a chance to settle into their new home before you start feeding them. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but the worms will be just fine. They can actually eat their bedding if they need to, and they'll be just fine without food. And if you introduce food too soon, they're going to be more likely to crawl and to try and leave the bin. So it's pretty simple. In summary, add some material from another worm bin if possible. Keep a light over them 24/7 for the first week, and don't feed them for the first week. I hope you found this video helpful. As always, I appreciate every like, every comment, and every subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.